Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. I am Agung Rosidi from Universitas Sebelas Maret, Surakarta, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, in this section, I want to explain about my article with the title is Experimental Model Based on Scientific Approach Viewed from Learning Activeness. Introduction. The teaching and learning process is an activity performed by teachers and students who support each other to transfer knowledge. To improve learning outcome, teachers design activities that can facilitate students to learn new knowledge or value through a process. The teachers design a systematic learning process that covers design, implementation, and evaluation. The student learning outcome is often used as a reflection of the implementation of the learning process. Learning can be successful if students can comprehend what they have learned. Indeed, one of the goals of learning is to gain new knowledge as a provision for future life. The results of observation show that learning is still teacher-centered and students are often silent and less active in learning. In such a situation, learning cannot run well. Students could only learn by memorizing or imitating the ways taught by the teacher. It is very risky for the learning process continuation. The memorization or imitation model can make students forget easily. Besides, when faced with new questions or problems, students will find it difficult to solve them. Alternative solutions that can be used to improve the quality of learning are using a scientific approach. The scientific approach emphasizes how the teacher provides understanding to students to recognize and understand the material with a scientific approach. The government has designed a curriculum to improve the quality of learning, such as the 2013 curriculum. In this curriculum, learning is expected to use a scientific approach. By using this approach, teachers are expected to be able to design learning with scientific characteristics. Through a scientific approach, learning is required to include components of observing, asking, reasoning, trying or creating, and presenting or communicating. Through this approach, students are given the opportunity to experience, follow the process, observe, analyze, prove, and draw their conclusion. It is expected that they will build or construct their knowledge. To apply a scientific approach to learning, a learning model that can accommodate scientific learning is needed. A learning model is a theoretical framework oriented toward goal, procedure, and learning management. Some learning models that can be used to make learning meaningful are number held together and think pair share. This quantitative study used a quasi-experimental design and was conducted in one of the selected schools in Sragen district, Indonesia. The population of the study was 260 students from 8th grader. Before the study, the population had been grouped into some class and each class consisted of 32 students. The sample was selected using the cluster random sampling technique. Cluster random sampling was performed by taking randomly a ball that has been labeled a class in a box. The first ball was taken to determine the experimental class, and the second ball was for the control class. Before the study, both classes were confirmed to have a balanced initial ability. The instrument in this study consisted of learning tool, learning outcome test, and learning activity questionnaire. Before use, all three instruments were validated. Learning tools and learning outcome tests were validated by experts in the field of learning, namely mathematics education lecturer. While the activity questionnaire was validated by experts in the field of educational research and evaluation. After instrument and questionnaire were declared valid, then the instrument was tested on 9th grade students. The learning activeness questionnaire was distributed before the treatment while the learning outcome test was given after the treatment. In this case, treatment refers to application of the number head together learning model in the experimental class and the application of the think pair share learning model in the control class. Both classes received treatment for 3 face-to-face meetings. The questionnaire data obtained were then analyzed to determine the level of student learning activeness. The level of student learning activeness is grouped into 3 categories which refer to the interpretation using a reference norm involving the mean and standard deviation. This study proposed 3 hypotheses. First, there are differences in the effect of number head together and think pair share using a scientific approach on learning outcome. Second, there are differences in the effect of level of learning activeness of learning outcome. Third, there is an interaction of learning model and learning activities on learning outcome. And finally, the conclusion about my article is learning is expected to be done meaningfully in which each student can construct his or her knowledge. The scientific learning approach is one way for students to experience, observe, and summarize the material they learn for themselves to construct their knowledge. The numbered head together and think pair share learning model can support the scientific learning approach. The number head together learning model requires students to collaborate with their group so that at any time when they are asked to present, they can answer correctly. Meanwhile, in the think pair share model, students are required to think by observing, then pair up to discuss or ask questions, and then share their finding or answer. In practice, learning model affects student learning outcome where the number head together learning model produce better learning outcome than the think pair share learning model. The application of the number head together and think pair share model requires students to be active, but the research show that student activeness does not influence learning outcome, so that there is no interaction between the learning model and learning activeness. This is the end of my presentation about my article. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.